Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacciana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home. Today we have an overview of the best resources that I have found to help you date your Zippo windproof lighter. I wrote an article last week on the website, dependableflame.com, highlighting 6 such resources, and we're just going to go over them from the top to the bottom right now. These aren't in any particular order, although I did start with the Zippo website itself simply because you would think you're dating your Zippo. This is where you would get the most accurate and helpful information. This may or may not be the case. Probably not in my estimation. There's a chart there showing you the different logos that have been used and the dates for those. There's also a little video explaining how the date code system came to be. This was a quality control issue that was implemented by George Blaisdell himself to help identify and isolate certain problems within the manufacture of the lighters. But we now have these codes that we can use to fairly precisely date just about any Zippo lighter that you need to determine when it was manufactured. Now you can see that before the date codes took place here, according to Zippo's chart in 1958, this actually started, I believe, in 1955 when we look at the other charts. So Zippo's chart here works pretty well. They also have a separate chart because there were differences in the slim dating when they first started from 56 to 65. Those dates were different from that of the full-size regular windproof lighters. Now, there are a lot of gaps. They've taken some shortcuts here to where they show you that in 1937 to 1950, the 2032695 patent was used. There are also some shortcuts here from 50 to 57, which I think that would more accurately be listed as 1950 to 1955. So just to show you that what Zippo has here is a pretty solid way of dating your lighters from 1958 and up, although they do have certain nuances and dates missing, some years where there were dual stamps that were valid that they do not have listed here. They do have the dual stamp of 1979 listed. See there, 1 / on the front, 2 on the back, and then supposedly around May of that year that was corrected to 2 on the front and 1 on the back, which is what it should have been. Then in the next year they just went on as they should. So there were actually 2 codes for that 1 year. Same thing for 1960 and slim lighters. There are actually 2 codes that are valid for this year. When we move over here to the Passionate Wick website, we see the bottom stamps of lighters from 1933, which is purportedly the first actual lighter that was produced for sale, going all the way up to 1992. You can see these date codes, and this can be a valuable resource, but it's kind of difficult to see these on this website. The photography is not all that great. And then in addition to that, there are certain years where identification has been confounded by, you can see here, the same thing that you saw on that Zippo chart. You have from 1953 to 1957 showing the 2517191 patent and the registered trademark, when even as they have listed in this chart that 56 and 57 did not have these dates. So some differences. They also, on this particular chart on the Passionate Wick, only have the 1 date code for 1979. So as you can see, there are some differences in what has been documented, and just gaps in certain ones of these charts. We move forward from the Passionate Wick website to Glenn Zippo website, which is a lot more detailed in certain aspects. It's a little bit harder to follow. You can see that it starts out here talking about dating Zippo lighters, and then points out that since 1955 they've carried a date code. You click on each one of these subheadings here and it will give you a more precise and detailed explanation of how you get to that date, comparing the nuances of the bottom stamp, where there are spaces at, where they're at in relation to the Zippo logo, also dating by the file teeth on the insert, the hinges, a lot of different nuances. This particular chart is a little bit more difficult to read than some of the others. Some aspects of it are straightforward, but there is a lot of reading that goes into this Glenn Zippo site in order for you to date your lighter more precisely. Now, from Glenn Zippo, we move over to Moonlight Zippo, which, because this site has been translated, I think that is the reason anyway, it would not let me provide the exact dating link, so you'll have to click on that when you get over there. Click on dating, and then it'll take you here to the regular, slim, table, Canada, boxes, and fuel cans. When you click on the regular, you can see it gives you a depiction of the bottom stamp along with explanations for different nuances that would have made a difference for that particular year and model. A lot of those are fairly detailed and are going to require you going back and forth from your lighter to the chart to figure that out. Once you get into the years where the date codes are implemented, which you can see here happened in 1955, you have them showing the registered symbol stamp, the full date stamp, or full, I forget what they call this, the full bottom stamp, something like that. But then some point during that year is when they switched over. There are certain nuances. You had the 4 dots on each side for each of these years, 55, 56, and 57. Although you can see that in 57, the actual bottom date stamp changed to where it just said patent 2517191 rather than the patent and the patent pending as it had in 55 and 56. This particular chart did not list the dual stamp that is valid for both of those bottom stamps in 1979. And if we go back over here to the slim chart, you can see that this Moonlight Zippo does highlight both of the stamps that are valid for 1960 slim lighters. You can have it with 2 dots on the left and 3 on the right, or you can also have it 3 dots on the right and 2 on the left. There are several other nuances and differences that you may be able to find. These are just some of the more glaring ones that were evident to me as I went through these and was marking these pages up to include in this article on the website. The next page is a site that really doesn't have much at all to do with Zippos. If you go over here and click on Frank Dutton's Toledo Bend .com VCL site, click on lighters. There is a little bit of information here for Zippos. Very old 1935 model there apparently. This one says 1950, 1996, along with a Lady Bradford table lighter, a Corinthian, and a Zippo Barcroft. But not a lot of detailed information about Zippos themselves in the lighter information. But on this particular page, where they have dating Zippo lighters, this is an article that was written by Frank Dutton himself, apparently. It refers to different nuances of dating them, shows the same logo chart that it showed on the Zippo website, along with a similar guide here to the date codes, which is almost identical to what was on the Zippo website and apparently came from the old Warman's Field Guide to Dating Zippo Lighters. But the cool thing about this particular article is that it does list some nuances that can become very helpful to you. Take, for instance, the hinges. The fact that it tells you that an outside hinge with 3 barrels was from 1932 to 1935. Outside hinge with 4 barrels, 36, 37. Internal hinge with 4 barrels, 36 to 43. And I think that may have actually been 42. I think it's 42 black crackles that have the 4 barrel, and the rest from 43 through 45 have the 3 barrels, but I could be wrong on that. Anyway, shows you those nuances, the chimney holes, and then some other finer points of information there. But again, not a detailed, exhaustive chart, which, to be honest, I don't know that we can really find a detailed, exhaustive chart on any of these resources. The one website that I think does the best job of doing it in such a concise manner, and there are 2 different ways of doing this. The one that I enjoy, the one that I believe is the most easy to determine for most Zippo lighters, is this chart that was created, or at least special thanks are given to a Mr. Hiroshi Kito on this site, We Love Zippo. And you can see the bottom stamp from every year from 33. Now there were some years where it did not change, so you can see 33, then 33 to 34, 36 to 40, 38 to 41. And then there are several years where it gives more than one possible bottom stamp. Not just for the older lighters where changes may have been made, but up here for the newer lighters when you start talking about commemorative special editions and things like that. So this is a very good overall concise chart. You see it even shows the overall leather wrap bottom stamp, what that looked like. See here in 1983 there was a commemorative, that would be brass. Then you can have some of these old logos which had previously been retired have been used on commemoratives or Asian market releases, things like that. But you can also see here 1992 has at least 4 listed, including the original 1932 replica bottom stamps. So the newer they get, actually it seems like the more there are on some of them. So this is a very helpful resource, a very helpful, concise, and to the point, gives you the ability to look it up, to look up the bottom stamp of your Zippo lighter. If you can't find it on there, then there are some more explanatory notes here. As you see, there is an 8-page graph where it'll have the bottom stamp and then give you some nuances or differences for the way that you can tell the date on that by the stamp. Maybe it's by the paint on a black crackle or the hinge. Maybe it's by some of them you can only tell by the insert. Different nuances, different characteristics that determine exactly what year that Zippo lighter was manufactured. As you can see here, for 1979, it gives the original, what most people would call the error code from that year, which apparently was corrected in May or around May, so about half the year had this date code where the correction was 2 on the left and 1 on the right. But both are correct. I don't believe that one is necessarily more scarce or collectible than the other. And you can see there that it only gave the one for 1979. It also, as far as I can tell, doesn't give, this particular chart doesn't give any specific information for slim lighters. So the best you can do, really, if you don't have a date code, is to come up with the specific characteristics of that lighter that, if you consult the right charts and talk to the right people, you can definitely get a pretty good date on just about any lighter. There are a few of those years where maybe you're looking at, it could have been 1949 or 1950, maybe 1951 or 1952 in certain instances. But even if you can't date it precisely to the year, you can get really close, and I think that's going to be good enough for most collectors. There are those people out there, those experts in the Facebook lighter groups, that are going to know every nuance, every change. They don't really need to consult a chart. So it could be that if you run into problems, that you can always ask an expert or two in one of those Zippo lighter groups. But as far as what you can accomplish by yourself for dating a Zippo windproof lighter, these 6 resources that we have highlighted in this article will help you do that fairly accurately and without too much effort. I appreciate you joining us today. Make sure you hit that like button. Tell all your friends. Until next time.